Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm your host, Jordan DeLugo. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Thursday, November 21st. Got the sun shining out here. It is a beautiful day in Jacksonville. Wonderful weather. A little cool, a little chilly, maybe a little too much chilly for some. I love it though, personally. Today though, bye week, we've been talking about a lot of bigger picture topics, some different things. Right now, I kind of want to take a look at the Jaguars secondary. It's been arguably, maybe not even arguably, like the worst aspect of the Jaguars football team in 2024. Probably, in my opinion, by a wide margin. I mean, you've had disappointments at corner, safety, both strong and free, both safety spots, corner. I mean, it's awful. The Jaguars secondary is horrendous. They've got a great many needs right now, no doubt about it. I mean, they need a new head coach and GM. Need to fire the ones they have. A cornerback to play opposite Tyson Campbell is of paramount importance. A couple decent safeties of paramount importance. How can the Jaguars revamp their secondary in 2025? That's what we're going to get into. What they have right now, plain and simple, it is not working. I think that they have the worst secondary in football. And is that just coaching? Is that just organizational failure? Like, you can look at Andre Sisco and say he has played much better every single year in the NFL than he is right now. I think you can look at Ronald Darby and say the same thing. Now, Tyson Campbell's playing good football. Very good football. Antonio Johnson played better ball last year. And, he was playing big nickel last year, really, more than safety or like corner. He was playing, that big dime, come in and run defense situations. But I think Antonio Johnson has more talent than he's showed this year. Andre Sisco has more talent than he's showed this year. Ronald Darby has more talent than he's showed this year. Will coaching fix it, though? I'm not sure. Andre Sisco is a free agent. Ronald Darby's up there in age. Antonio Johnson is a question mark right now. I'll say this. I think that the players in that secondary are better than they have played so far this year, for whatever the reason. You love their secondary coach, Chris Richard. I mean, that's one of the most energetic, high-focus, communicative coaches you can find, but, well-respected. It's not working. It's not working back there. So the Jaguars are going to have to work to fix it from a coaching standpoint and a talent standpoint. I don't think you go into 2025 with Ronald Darby as your starting corner opposite Tyson Campbell. One thing we know, though, I know. Hopefully, I can help show you all this. The 2025 cornerback class and the 2025 safety class in the NFL draft, loaded with talent. This is one of the deepest cornerback classes we've seen in a while. I think you can say the same thing about safety. And there's great players at the top, great players throughout. At cornerback, I mean, you could hit it big early with Travis Hunter or Will Johnson off the bat. First pick. That problem is solved. You could also look, maybe a little bit later, Azareye'h Thomas out of Florida State, Zy Alexander out of LSU, Jahdae Barron's playing great football, and he has moved around. He has a lot of versatility. Max Harrison out of Kentucky, Shavon Ravel dealing with the ACL right now out of EC. I mean, the list goes on and on. Benjamin Morrison. There's a lot of talented guys for day one and day two that can certainly play for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Coaching will matter, right? Like who's your coach? What's their scheme? That's going to matter. But there's a lot of guys that fit a lot of different schemes here that make sense. So I think that's exciting part of it. I think Hunter and Johnson can really do a lot. Probably Travis Hunter's better in zone where he can just use his instincts and reactive athleticism. I think Will Johnson can do both. Azareé Thomas, I think, can do it all. Zay Alexander might be more of a zone corner. I want to see how he tests. If he's able to run, sub 4.5. Because Azareé Thomas and Zay Alexander, those are big corners. Jahdae Barron, probably more of a zone guy. But look, obviously you can get into that stuff once you find out who's coaching the defense next year. At safety, same thing though. It's deep and you can go hit it early. Malachi Starks out of Georgia is a blue chip prospect and he can play both safety spots. He can play nickel. He can move all around the formation. Great tackler, great coverage, great instincts. Supreme athlete. I love Malachi Starks. But beyond that, I mean, you've got Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame, who's led the country in interceptions the last couple years. Kamari Ramsey, who's more that box safety type of guy. Kevin Winston out of Penn State. Sebastian Castro plays some nickel. Rod Moore, Andrew Makuba, Malachi Moore, many other quality safety prospects. So if there's a year where you really can improve your secondary in the draft, fortunately for the Jaguars, it is this year. That's certainly not their only need. We've talked about that a little bit. Got to figure out what they're doing at left tackle. Walker Little, a rookie. You try to find a different free agent. They've got decisions to make, but secondary is going to be crucial, and they can absolutely help themselves in the draft. I also think they should be interested in free agency, though, so we're going to take a look at that as well. First, got to remind y'all, check out Underdog Fantasy for Pick'em and a whole lot more. You can use code DuvalDaily on their easy-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. This season, Underdog is running a special promo or bonus every single day. Like Profit Boost, pump up your winnings in just a tap when you apply the boost to eligible entries. There will be tons of options around the league this week. You can't take a running back to score against the Jaguars, but a lot of running backs that are going to score touchdowns this weekend. You can pick one of them to score, and Underdog has vulture protection to rescue your pick'em if your running back gets vultured. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code DuvalDaily to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778 Hope NY or text Hope NY 467-369. All right, so I mentioned free agency, right? Like you don't want to just have three new guys coming from the draft coming in to fix your secondary, two at safety and one at corner opposite Tyson Campbell. And I haven't mentioned Jarian Jones. I think Jarian Jones, you leave him in the nickel and you feel good about that. You've got your Tyson Campbell, your star outside guy with length and speed. Very, very good young player now on his second contract. Jarian Jones locking it down at nickel, continuing to develop there. And then again, corner and a couple safety spots. Free agency, cornerback, very interesting. Obviously, when it comes to free agency and you're talking about it in November, a lot will change. Guys will sign contracts. Guys won't hit the market, all that stuff. But right now, you look at Charvarius Ward is in the prime of his career still. Big physical press corner. Slated to hit free agency. Carlton Davis is another big guy. Big athletic corner. DJ Reed, though, gosh, absolutely love him for the New York Jets. He's a smaller guy, small, feisty, super quick, great in man coverage, very good in zone, been very productive for the New York Jets. Those guys are kind of all in their prime, but there's going to be a long list of decent corners out there. If you just go look at Spot Rack or wherever you want to look, there's going to be a lot of corners. A lot of corners out there. I think these are the ones you look at and you say that could really be a good starting corner. And there's a couple more, but maybe they're up there in age. Maybe there's question marks, injuries, but you could definitely go out there and potentially find somebody at corner to upgrade your top end talent. I would keep Darby as a backup. I would keep Buster Brown as a backup. That's what they should be in this league. And you need depth. And look, I think a different coach, a different coaching staff could get a lot more out of those two guys than what you've seen here. I really do. At least this year. At safety, again, you might need 2 starters. Andre Cisco set to hit free agency. You probably don't want Antonio Johnson going into the season as a starter. Andrew Winger, Daniel. I mean, you need 2 safeties. Again, maybe one from the draft that you could feel comfortable starting. Maybe you sign 2 of them to start next year at safety and you develop a drafted prospect, whatever it may be. It's going to depend on scheme here too with both corner and safety. But, Budda Baker is slated to hit free agency. If you're able to add a guy like that to your secondary, that would be unbelievable. Justin Reed is a good downhill safety, and it looks like the Chiefs drafted his replacement this year, Jaden Hicks. So that's somebody who could be available. Javon Holland, he's going to be a big money guy too. But I wouldn't be against it one bit. Justin Simmons is up there in age, obviously, but he's an absolute beast. So there's going to be options. And right now, if I had to kind of look at what I would try to do, I'd probably try to get your corner opposite Tyson Campbell in the draft early on, whether that's first, second round. Feel really good about the guy you get. And then probably draft a safety at some point in the draft, but not with the intention of starting them in year 1. And probably, you could look at Darnell Savage as somebody maybe that you feel okay about starting. I think that they made a mistake signing him because I don't think you want to start him at nickel over Jarian Jones, and I don't really think you feel great about him at safety either. But so typical, but I think you need to sign 2 safeties. And the great thing about safety is it's not a super expensive position unless you go after the super big fish, but you could sign somebody like Budda Baker or Javon Holland and then go get another guy who's just a stopgap, decent starter. And with good coaching, as long as they fit your system, you can operate that way at the safety position and then develop your guy you bring in. So there's options. There absolutely are. I mentioned coaching, though. It's going to be critical. It really is. It absolutely is. But this is a team that should be motivated to win now, moving into 2025, a team that has franchise quarterback, some big-time stars on the defensive side of the ball, a team that will have $55 million plus potentially another $10 million in free agent spending money, depending on what happens with Christian Kirk. And don't forget, when you sign a player in free agency, let's just say they went after Javon Holland and they had to pay him $21 to $22 million a year. Who knows if that's the numbers, how it's going to play out, right? But this is just an example. He isn't hitting your cap for $21 to $22 million in year 1. You can cut that number in half. The Jaguars usually cut it 40%, or cut it down to 40%, so cut it by 60%. And prorate it over the length of the contract, and they usually have an out after the second or third year, depending on the length of the contract. So, if you go sign a player for $21 to $22 million a year next offseason, that's only going to be about a $10 million cap hit, right? So that's something you have to keep in mind when you're thinking about all this stuff, because $55 million, you might say, well, if you sign one guy to $22 million contract, that's half of your free agent money. No, it's not. That's not how it works. So the Jaguars have a lot of flexibility to get good quickly. And they've got a good amount of talent already on the roster. So that's me looking at corner, looking at safety, seeing what the Jaguars can potentially do. Just an early look. Again, it's the bye week. There's no news on the coaching front. There's no news in the front office. We don't know what's going on. No transparency from the organization. So we will see. But try to give you all a little insight, a little hope into what could be in the secondary. Again, probably the Jaguars' most glaring need right now on this roster, outside of Tyson Campbell and Jarian Jones. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Y'all have a good one.